In a world where legends rise and fall with every punch, where the roar of the crowd fades, but the stories live on. This is where those stories are told. This is Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. From the blood, the sweat, and the glory, to the controversies, comebacks, and knockouts, we go behind the ring, no fluff, no hype, and definitely no BS. Just the truth behind the fight game. And we've been doing it for over 2 decades. A podcast pioneer, now a Hall of Famer.
Great. What's that ego gonna be like?
And next, the comeback kid.
Wait, isn't he like 90 or something?
Shut up, he'll hear you. The reigning, defending, undisputed, heavyweight champion of boxing broadcasting. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. And it's on now.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening, I hope you're doing okay. Today's show is being brought to you and a part by my book. Tom Molyneux from Bondage, the Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold, and you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this very show. Just go to Amazon.com, or I'll tell you what, we got a special going on right now. As a matter of fact, if you go to BillyCBoxing.com and click on the Tom Molyneux book cover, you're going to get a discounted price. I think it's as low as $12. So no limited quantities either. With the holidays coming up, you know what I say. Everybody on your Christmas list has got to have a copy of the book. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing okay. Say hello to everybody in the chat room. Joel, I love the fight. I'm going to be talking about it, but I didn't read about any betting scandal on that. Give a shout out to my man Jeffrey, who's in there, and the guy who's always first, my man Jesus. So if anybody's watching or listening on another platform, because I know we're simulcasting on several at once, come on over to the YouTube chat room and, let us know your thoughts, and we'll get you on the show here, But anyway, we got as usual, we got a busy show for you today. Vergil Ortiz seems to have a lot of options right now, assuming he gets past Erickson Lubin on Saturday. But is he focused on his task at hand, beating Lubin Saturday night, or is he looking ahead? Is he taking Lubin lightly? Is he looking ahead to these big paydays that he's being promised? We don't know. We'll have to see on Saturday night. But in any event, I'm going to be breaking down and giving you my predictions on that fight, as well as 2 other fights on that card. Also coming up later, I'm going to continue with the Billy C rankings. I've been getting a lot of positive response to that. If you don't know, I am doing my rankings based on 9 weight classes, the original 8, plus I added the cruiserweight division. Now today, so far we've done the heavyweight, cruiserweight, and light heavies. Now this week I'm breaking down the middleweight division, which was pretty tricky because it kind of encompasses the super middleweights and the middleweights. And as we move on, some of those super middleweights might be categorized as light heavyweights. So we will get to that later. And by the way, if you're looking to get on the list, because once I do all of the weight classes, I'm going to be updating them every month. And if you want to get on the list for my rankings, just drop me an email, Billy at Talkin' Boxing, TalkinBoxing.com. Joel is, email it to me, Joel. He'll send me some info on a betting scandal with the UFC. But also, coming up later on the show, we got a great guest coming up. He's a friend of mine, and he's been around the boxing business for a long time. As a matter of fact, he did my intro when I was inducted into the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame. And the guy that I'm talking about is now the editor-in-chief of FightNews.com. Boxing Bob Newman will be joining us a little bit later. But first, let's talk about some fight results and some news that is happening. I watched it. I don't know if you guys saw the fight, but Joshua Buatsi against Zach Parker took place this past Saturday night out of England. What a fight, man. You know, if you missed it, go back and watch it because it was a great fight. At the end of the night, the way the judges scored it, one judge had it 95-95. And the other two judges scored it 96-94. It was that close of a fight, and they scored it for Joshua Buatsi, who improved to 20 wins, 1 loss, 13 of his wins coming by knockout. And Zach Parker dropped to 26-2 with 18 knockouts. How did I see the fight? I got to be honest with you. I thought Zach Parker squeaked out the fight. I thought he landed the more meaningful punches. He was there the whole fight. I really thought he won the fight. I was. Let me put it this way: it was a close fight. It could have gone either way. But I was kind of shocked when the verdict was read, and Buatsi won the fight. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. Another fight that I thought was interesting, another one that you could have watched on the Zone. Lenier Pero won a fight. He didn't knock anybody out, but he beat Jordan Thompson. Now, if you watched the show last week, I broke this fight down, and I didn't give Jordan Thompson much of a chance. I mean, he hadn't fought in a couple of years. His last fight was at cruiserweight. He lost his bid for a title, and when you looked at his resume, he really didn't have many big names on it. No big names on it except for his loss. But, man, let me tell you, this guy came into this fight ready to fight. He was in terrific shape. He looked like a monster in the ring, so much so that I'd love to see more of Jordan Thompson at heavyweight. At the end of the night, Pero got the win. He improved to 13-0 with 8 knockouts. It was a 10-round unanimous decision, 97-93, and 2 of the judges had it 96-93. And Jordan Thompson drops to 15-2. So it was a fun fight to watch, and Jarrell Miller was ringside, and apparently he's ready to fight Pero next. When they asked if he was looking if he was willing to fight him, he says, and I quote, this is Jarrell Miller, said, "Listen, man, you know I don't run from nobody. I'll cook him. I'll turn him into a Cuban sandwich." So he wants Eddie Hearn to sign the fight. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Another fight card that I wanted to talk about was one that I was ringside for, and that was CES Boxing's November Classic. Or maybe they call it, I don't know if they call it November Classic or Fall Classic. I'm sorry. It was at the Mohegan Sun. The main event was Speedy Rashidi Ellis. He improved to 28-1 with 18 knockouts when he stopped Javier Fortuna, who dropped to 39-7 in that fight. It was the 1 minute and 53 seconds of the 4th round. It was kind of a weird ending, boys and girls. Fortuna, who was moving up in weight, he didn't look all that great a shape. He had a couple of rolls, maybe not as much as a Bakery has, but he definitely had a couple of rolls around the midsection. And then all of a sudden, I even said, as I was sitting there, it looked like he was holding his one arm, arm and glove was kind of like behind his back, and I turned to Lewis, and I'm like, what's up with his arm? Next thing I know, he takes a knee, and apparently he his shoulder popped out or something, and the fight was over. Leading up to that stoppage, which, like I said, was 1 minute and 53 seconds of the 4th round, I had scored the first 3 rounds all for Speedy Rashidi. I had the score 30-26. Because a solid body shot in the 3rd round dropped Fortuna. So that was that. There was several other fights on that card. It was a night of knockouts, several quick knockouts, but a couple of fights I just wanted to point out. Kevin Walsh, he went the distance over Jose Sosa to improve to 19-0 with 10 knockouts. This was a tough fight. Sosa drops only the second fight of his career. He's now 8-2 with 6 knockouts. He's out of Brooklyn, New York. The way the judges scored it, one judge had it 76-75, and the other two had it 77-74 in favor of Walsh. I'll tell you the truth, this fight could have gone either way as well. I think that there was, I believe there was a knockdown in this fight at the end of the fourth round, and I think that was the difference because aside from that, this was an extremely close fight. And one other fight I'll point out that was there. There was a Polish prospects. Now, I apologize in advance because you all know that I murder the English language here, especially with names that aren't so English, like Polish fighters. Sloromir Bodizowicz improved to 7-0 with 6 knockouts when he stopped Cesar Ugarte in the second round, 1 minute and 21 seconds to improve to 7-0 with 6 knockouts. Ugarte dropped to 6-6. As usual, Jimmy Birchfield put on a pretty entertaining show. One other fight that I want to point out, Carlos Perez took on Stephen Davis. Now, Perez, he was going into this fight 4-0. This was a junior welterweight contest, and Stephen Davis, he went into the fight with only 1 win, 7 losses, and a draw, with his 1 win coming by knockout. What a close fight this was. It went back and forth, and Perez won a unanimous decision 39-37, and 2 of the judges had it as a shutout, 40-36. I thought it was a little closer than that, but what do I know, right? But anyway, those were the fights that I wanted to talk a bit about. Some news that we'll chat about right now. In case you haven't heard, the Jake Paul-Tank Davis fight has been canceled. Listen, I wasn't a big fan of the fight to begin with, to be honest with you. But the reasons surrounding it were pretty bad. Davis, who's been in trouble before slapping girls around, apparently went to one of his ex-girlfriend's places of employment, which happens to be a strip club. And not that matters, but, and he went there and I guess smacked her around a bit and allegedly kidnapped her. And make a long story short, there's a case brought against him, and he will not be able to fight. Jake Paul basically called him the scourge of the earth for smacking women around, and he started looking around for fights. I saw rumors that he was going to fight Andre Ward and all this stuff, but no, boys and girls, he did not pick a legitimate fighter. He picked Nate Diaz, whom he had already fought once before, who will now step in for Tank Davis and fight Jake Paul. So we're going to see Jake Paul against Nate Diaz 2 coming up. Some other interesting news that took place over the last few days. The WBC, which had the suspension of Ryan Garcia, apparently has lifted the suspension. Now, I'm not sure which commissions have him under suspension or what, but the WBC did because of their anti-doping policy. And the WBC president, Mauricio Suleiman, said this: the WBC Board of Governors has voted in favor of lifting the suspension on Ryan Garcia after his successful and documented process. The WBC has been very close to Ryan, his family, his management team, and his promoter, and we're confident that he will start a new life inside and outside the ring. We welcome you with open arms and trust that you would be an ambassador for the new generation. This was geared towards Ryan Garcia. And I guess the bottom line is when you generate the money, you get the things going in your way. I got a question from my man Chase, who's in the chat room. He says, hey, Billy C., do you think David Reed was rushed career-wise, or would his career concluded the same way either way? That's a good question, Chase. I do believe David Reed was rushed a little bit. It's a catch-22 because a lot of fighters today, I'm critical of the fact that they're coddled so much. But being rushed and being coddled, in my opinion, are two different things. I think David Reed, I think one of the factors that kind of pushed them to rush him a little bit was that eye. He had that weird eye, that wandering eye. And I think it was always going to be under scrutiny, especially if it was puffed up or if it was bleeding around the eye or something like that. So I think they were trying to get what they could. But good question. But yeah, I kind of do think that he was rushed a little bit. But I kind of agree, if that's what you're alluding to, that his career would have ended the same way either way. But did you hear? Now you guys all know who Sydney Sweeney is. She's that gorgeous woman that has been around social media. She's the type of chick that I know that sounds male chauvinist, but she's the type of woman that some guys, including myself, can't keep their eyes off of her. Well, she played Christy Martin, and the movie's going to be released. I believe I was told it's going to be released maybe this weekend or next weekend. And she did a fantastic job. The reviews are all fantastic. And, she really had a, no disrespect to anyone else, but she really had to change her appearance to play Christy Martin. But it came out the other day that she wants to fight. She wants to box for real. She says, and I quote, there was a moment in the middle of filming where I was like, should I give it all up and fight because I love this? She says, Christy said she'd sign me up. So this isn't a hypothetical, as you may think. She says, yeah, I'd totally do a charity bout. That would be so sick. And Christy Martin, who's promoting fights right now, and she's got some fighters, apparently is lining up an opponent for Sydney Sweeney. They won't release who it is or who their options are, but they are definitely planning something. Even Sydney Sweeney was saying, who would I fight? It's going to be a surprise. You'll have to wait. I'm serious. And then she slipped and said, you got to stay tuned for the pay-per-view, and you'll see it. So it's like, oh, okay. It's going to be a money grab because, who doesn't want to see Sydney Sweeney in a pair of boxing gloves? But in any event, my thoughts, she said that she was asked what she thought her best attribute is when it comes to boxing. And she said, I think what would get me through a fight is that I can take a punch. I wouldn't quit. Acting, taking punches and taking a punch are two different things. But my question is, why the heck would Sydney Sweeney want to risk messing up that face? I don't know. Once you get bit by the boxing bug, it's hard to get rid of it. You know how we've been talking about pay-per-views and how DAZN said boxing was going to be free and all that other jazz? Well, here's another one. It just seems like ever since they said that boxing was going to be free beginning in November, it seems like more pay-per-views have been popping up. At least that's what it's. It's like when you buy that car and you get the color that you never saw before, and as soon as you drive it off the lot, every other car you pass is the same color. Well, it's like what's going on with the pay-per-views, right? Well, it was announced by Integrated Sports Media that they're going to be distributing the Bordeaux Jack and Noel McKillian, a World Cruiserweight fight. They're selling it for $29.99. It's going to be available everywhere, and they're donating $1 from every purchase to mental health. A nonprofit organization called Championing Mental Health, which basically is trying to get mental wellness through sports. And Steve Bash, who's the promoter and the president of Bash Boxing, who's obviously promoting this event, says, "We're thrilled that fight fans across the country will have an affordable, high-quality pay-per-view option to experience these amazing rematches while also supporting a meaningful cause." Hey, listen, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but let's be real. Ask yourself a question. Are you going to pay for a pay-per-view just because $1 of it's going to go to a good cause? I mean, honestly, well, let me rephrase the question. Are you going to pay $30 for this fight either way, whether $1 is going or not? Chances are no. I don't understand why fighters or promoters, I should say, of today haven't realized that the pay-per-view model of fights isn't working anymore. The numbers aren't there, and most fight fans will do whatever they can to avoid paying for a pay-per-view. I just think it's ridiculous that we keep getting these pay-per-views thrown at us because, quite honestly, most people don't want to pay extra for a pay-per-view. It's not going to happen. Listen, there were pay-per-views, and as far as I know, they still go on. Hey, it's $9.95. It's $6.99. It's $2.99. I don't care if it's 99 cents. People don't friggin' want to pay for a pay-per-view. Boxing fans get fleeced every step of the way. Not only do you get to pay for the fights, but you get to pay for some shitty matchup. Come on, man. Look, I think Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez proved that if you go on a platform and you try to reach as many eyes as you can, they will be there. Like 40 million of them watched that fight. Now, granted, it was a great matchup. Anyway, Chris is in the chat room asking, what do I think about the Jake Paul and Tank debacle? Well, listen, I talked about it when we first came on air. I thought that the Jake Paul Tank Davis fight to begin with was a total joke, okay? And I wasn't planning on watching it at all. And, I talked to a close friend of Tank Davis's a couple of weeks ago, and he informed me, listen, Tank's sick of the sport of boxing. It's a cash. He's grabbing the $20 million. He's walking away. He's going to take care of his family. All these positive things made me start to think, well, maybe Tank isn't a typical Floyd Mayweather protege like Adrian Broner. And then he gets in trouble doing what he did, smacking around his ex-girlfriend, kidnapping her and threatening her life and all those crazy things that he's done before. And now the fight's off. So guess what? His stupidity cost him $20 million. So that's what I think of that. And to be honest with you, Chris, I have no interest in watching Jake Paul fight Nate Diaz again. What I do have an interest in is seeing Jake Paul fight a legitimate fighter that, maybe is in the top 15 in the light heavyweight or cruiserweight division, whichever one he wants to fight at. That's what I want to see. Let's see. I know he works hard in the gym, Jake Paul. I know he does, but let's see him fight a real fight, Speaking of fights, we got you guys know Top Rank lost the deal with ESPN, right? They had that deal, ESPN didn't renew it, blah, blah, blah. Well, they just announced today, I caught it, and they have their own channel, their own streaming channel called Top Rank Classics Fast Channel. And November 15th, which is next week, I guess, they're going to have a pretty good card when the WBO featherweight champ, Rafael Espinosa, is going to defend his title against Arnold Kagi in Mexico. And also, there's some other decent fighters on that card. Tenshin Nasawaka is taking on Takayama Inoue, Monster's brother. That's going to be for a title. Heavyweight that people talk a lot about, Richard Torres Jr., he's 13-0 with 11 knockouts. He's taking on Tomas Salik in a 10-round fight. And there's a couple of other young fighters on there. So that's a card I'm going to be watching. Apparently, you can get the Fast Channel from Roku to, Tubi or Vizio TVs, or it might be under any other smart TVs. They don't even know what they're on. But anyway, I don't mind seeing the streams as long as you're not paying for them. I think that that's good.
Insight, edge, and no pulled punches. This is Billy C's fight previews and predictions.
I love those little widgets that my man Jeremy, the infamous Jeremy C, has added to the show. And I'm going to break down and give you some predictions on the fights this weekend. The main fight, of course, is Erickson Lubin going up against Vergil Ortiz Jr. But there's a couple of other fights on this card that I am going to talk about right now. So the first one is in the heavyweight division. Zeno Voris is taking on Joshua Edwards. Who are these guys, you ask? Who knows? They're both young fighters, and they're fighting each other. And when you take a look at Zeno Voris, he's 5 wins, 1 loss. His 5 wins all coming by knockout. His 1 loss came by knockout. How does the computer see him? Well, the computer sees him out of all the heavyweights at number 578. Of course, he's not rated by the WBC, WBO, IBF, WBA, the Ring Magazine, ESPN ratings, or the Billy C ratings. When you look at this guy's record, he's 30 years old. He's going to be 5 years older than his opponent, Joshua Edwards. He's 6 foot tall, which will be 3 inches shorter. He's fought 6 fights, 2 more than Edwards, and he's got a total of 9 rounds under his belt. When you break down his level of opposition, well, he's fought 1 guy with a winning record, and that's who he lost to by TKO. That was Antonio Zapata, and that took place in February of 2025. When you combine all 6 of his fighters' records, they're his opponents, 10 wins, 24 losses, and 1 draw. However, put an asterisk next to that, boys and girls, because if you take out the guy that he got knocked out by, of his 5 wins, all coming by knockout, combined record, 4 wins, 22 losses, 1 draw. Now, he steps in the ring with Mr. Joshua Edwards, who also is undefeated. Well, Voris is not undefeated, but all of his wins, 4 of them, he's 4-0, also came by knockout. He's ranked at number 168 by the computer, not ranked by anybody else. All 4 of his fights, which I just said came by knockout, his combined record, 12 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw. This cat has not fought anyone with a losing record. The worst record that he fought was against Larry Gonzalez in his pro debut, and Larry Gonzalez was no wins, no losses, and 1 draw. And he knocked out Gonzalez in the second round of his scheduled 4. He's 25 years old. His nickname is The Rocket. He's only got the 4 fights. He's only fought 5 rounds, 100% KO ratio, 6'3". He's going to have 3 inches on Zeno Voris. How do I see this fight going? Listen, boys and girls, I don't see Zeno Voris winning this fight. I don't know much about these guys, but I will tell you this, just judging by who they fought, Joshua Edwards is going to walk out of this 5-0 with 5 knockouts. The next fight that I'm going to be talking about is in the super middleweight division. And this fight is also on that card. And it's between David Stevens and Darius Fulghum. And Fulghum was a fighter that is coming off a loss, but I'll get to him in a second. David Stevens, his record, 15 wins, 2 losses. Of his 15 wins, he's got 10 coming by knockout. Of his 2 losses, he lost a close 12-round split decision to Meli Kuziev. And the other fight, he was stopped by a 7-0 and 2-draw fighter back in 2023, Jashon James. He's ranked number 69 in the world at super middleweight. He's got 17 fights, and he's fought 68 rounds. His knockout ratio is 67%, which is actually 20% less than his opponent. He's 25 years old. He's 5'11" and a half, orthodox fighter. He's a Pennsylvania fighter. He's not rated by anybody. His 3 best wins, January of 2023 was an eighth round knockout over then 14-0 Sean Hemphill. In April of 2023, he won an 8-round unanimous decision over Marco Antonio Periban, which you guys have all heard of him. And in June of 2025, he won a 10-round unanimous decision over Petri Kamayukov, and that was in his last fight. Now, he steps in the ring with Darius Fulghum, who's got a record of 14 wins, 1 loss, 12 of his wins coming by knockout. And his only loss, he too lost a 12-round decision to Meli Kuziev, and he's ranked number 30 by the computer. He's not rated by the WBC, WBO, the IBF, the ESPN, the Ring ratings, or my ratings, but the WBA has him at number 6. He has 15 total fights, 2 less than his opponent. He's went 65 total rounds, 3 less than his opponent, and he's got an 86% knockout ratio, which is 20% more. He's 29 years old, which is actually older than his opponent, David Stevens. He's 6'1", which is a 2-inch advantage. When you look at this cat's record, what you're going to see is a very selected opponent list. His best 3 wins to date: in January of 2024, he's got a 10-round majority decision over Lantez Fox. Also in 2024, in June, he's got a 10-round unanimous decision over Vaughn Alexander. If the name sounds familiar, it's Devon Alexander's brother. And in February of this year, he's got a 4th-round knockout of Winford Harris. This will be the first fight after his 12-round unanimous decision to Meli Kuziev, which took place in May of this year. So he's trying to stay busy. How do I see this fight going? I see this being a decent fight, only because I think that David Stevens has fought some decent opposition, and Darius Fulghum has been carefully moved. But the one thing they both have in common is that they both have lost to Meli Kuziev. I'm leaning towards Darius Fulghum in this. I know that he's looking to right the ship, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm picking I'm picking Fulgham on this. Now, finally, for the big fight of the weekend, and it's an important one, I'm looking at Vergil Ortiz going up against Erickson Lubin. When you look at Vergil Ortiz, I mean, I was impressed with his last fight, to be honest with you. He's got a record of 23-0, 21 of his wins coming by knockout. He's ranked number 3 in the world by the computer systems. He's not rated in the IBF, the WBA, or the WBA. Why, you ask? Because he's currently the WBC interim super welterweight title holder. I don't have him ranked yet because I haven't ranked the super welterweights, or he'll be ranked in my welterweight rankings. The Ring ratings have him at number 1, and the ESPN ratings have him number 1 in the super welterweight / junior middleweight division. He's like I said, he's the current WBC interim champ. He's fought 23 fights, total of 95 rounds for a 91% knockout ratio. He's only 27 years old. It seems like he's been around longer than that. He's 5'10". He's fought some decent guys throughout his career. He's got some good wins. Samuel Vargas, Maurice Hooker, Michael McKinson, who we had as a guest on this show. And then he had a 1.5-year layoff, between the McKinson fight and then his next fight, which was against Frederick Lawson. And he also fought Thomas Delorme. He had a very close fight against Serhiy Bohachuk and another very close fight against Israel Madrimov, a guy who fought Terrence Crawford. Since his layoff, he's fought, which was from August of 2022 through January of 2024. He fought 3 times in 2024 and once in 2025. This will be his second fight in 2025, so he is trying to make up for lost time. Out of his 23 wins, 21 coming by knockout. To be totally clear, those were his last 2 fights, were the only 2 fights of his career that he has not won by knockout. The Madrimov fight and the Serhiy Bohachuk, both very close fights. I was impressed with both of those fights. The majority decision against Bohachuk, there were several people who thought that he lost that fight. But when he fought Madrimov, I was impressed because he didn't lose his cool. And, he was in with a real tough opponent. There's no question about that. Now, he steps in with Erickson Lubin. Now, Erickson Lubin, I'm familiar with him. I actually called one of his amateur finals in Florida. He's kind of got a fast track in the pros. His record is 27 wins, 19 coming by knockout. He's got 2 losses. Both of them were stoppage losses. He was stopped by Jermell Charlo and Sebastian Fundora. He's got 29 total fights, which is 6 more than Ortiz. 52 more rounds at 147. He's got 70% KO ratio, which is 21% less than Vergil Ortiz. He's 3 years older at 30 years old. He's got an inch height advantage, but he's got a 4.5-inch reach advantage, which should come in handy. No pun intended. He's a southpaw. The computer sees him at number 7. WBC has him at number 4. The WBO has him at number 3. He's not rated in the WBA or the IBF, but the Ring magazine has him at number 5. ESPN has him at number 10. I haven't rated him yet because I haven't done this division yet. Since his knockout loss to Fundora in April of 22, he's had 3 very good wins. Luis Arias, Jesus Ramos Jr., and Adriel Holmes Jr., all wins. And in those 3 wins, the combined record of those three fighters, 57 wins, 3 losses, and a draw. And by the way, the 3 losses and the draw all were from the one fighter, Luis Arias. So the other 2 were both undefeated. He also has some decent wins over Daniel Sandoval, Ivan Montero, Juan Cabarra, Jorge Cota, Terrell Gashua, and Jason Rosario, to name the ones that stuck out for me. How do I see this fight going? Well, Erickson Lubin, I feel, was rushed a little bit. He's fought some tough guys, which I like. But him getting knocked out by Jermell Charlo is the main reason that I'm telling you that Vergil Ortiz is not only going to win this fight, he's going to look really good doing it, as long as he doesn't look past this fight for the big paychecks that he's coming. So my prediction in this one is Vergil Ortiz. Now, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, our guest is in the house, and I'd like to introduce to you a guy. Well, I've seen him ringside for, it has to be 20 years. But he's always got the best seat in the house. He's currently the FightNews Editor-in-Chief. Please welcome boxing Bob Newman. What's up, brother?
Hey, Billy C. Everything's up. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Good. It's pouring here right now where I am, so I'm happy to be inside talking to you.
That's the right way. I mean, because we wouldn't be doing it in the rain. I'm not holding an umbrella for you. Not from here, anyway.
I don't want to hold one for myself.
Yeah, I know. Well, hey, you're in the perfect spot. But glad you are taking the time to join us. I got a bunch of things I want to ask you, so I'm going to start with this question. You've seen a ton of fights. You've been ringside for a lot of them. What was the craziest experience that you've had covering a fight? I mean, does anything stick out?
Well, I mean, there's been a few. I mean, there's crazy, there's tragic, which nobody likes to see in boxing. I mean, I almost had a fighter fall on me through the ropes. Right, like there's actually a picture of me trying to get out of the way and at the same time kind of hold the guy's head. It was a heavyweight fight at the Turning Stone, where you and I have been many times together covering shows. And he got knocked through the ropes. And this was a guy that was, I'm big enough. He was bigger than me. And he almost fell on top of me. So that was one. At a fight in Berlin, in Germany, kind of a tragic situation. But what made it crazy was the aftermath. There was a 3-0 kid fighting a guy with had fights like in the teens, I don't remember, 13, 14, 15 fights. And this was a 10-rounder. And it was under kind of a newly, quickly thrown together commission in Germany. And the 3-0 kid was winning. He was the promoter's fighter. But as you can imagine, he was getting more tired as the fight went on. And later in the fight, I don't remember if it was 7th or 8th round, the other guy was seasoned, had gone that distance probably several times, and he threw a vicious left hook, missed, threw it again, missed, and the third time, I mean, it was right out of a Rocky movie. Nobody throws, a left hook that many times in a row without a jab in between or whatever, but he finally connected on the third one, and this poor kid was out, and it was a fiasco with this newly formed commission and the ambulance, the whole thing. They were trying to pull the mouthpiece out like it was a chew toy with a dog, and then finally, because the kid's jaw was so clenched, they couldn't get it out, so they just let go, and his head thumped back to the canvas. And then when they finally got him on the stretcher, they didn't strap him in, and they had to go around 2 corners of the ring, and he almost fell off. And that was a bad thing. But I mean, fighters falling through the ropes, a ring breaking, the metal structure of the ring collapsed, and they had to basically stop the fight and I think call it a no contest. That was in Rochester, New York. A few crazy things like that.
you just reminded me. I'm remembering some crazy things I saw, and there was one in I think it was Dorchester, Mass. I was covering a fight. I had a fighter on the card, and it was in an old armory. And what was strange about it, first of all, was there was no dressing rooms. There was one big area where both the red corner, blue corner, male and female were all changing, and which was strange. And it was raining. Bob, it was raining, and there was a leak in the roof right over the center of the ring, and they just kept going. It was bizarre. But hey, do you remember? I forget who the fighter was, but it was in Russia, and it was a fight, and the Russian dude got really banged up, and they stopped the fight, and they actually had the medical staff tending to him. And it was like a good minute and a half, and then they continued to fight. They let the fight continue after they patched him up in the middle of the round. Do you remember that fight?
Wow, that's something similar to that sounds familiar, but I don't know about Russia.
It was definitely in Russia. It was the Russian fighter.
Yeah, the one thing that kind of reminds me of was the Olympics, and I believe it was. I'm trying to remember if it was 92 or 96 with Montel Griffin, and remember Torsten Mai, the German fighter, and he had been cut in a previous fight, but he won the fight and he advanced, and he had like this black hardened, like all I could call it is tar over the cut, and they let him fight like that, and he eliminated Montel Griffin from the competition with that black tar over his eye that sealed his cut from the previous fight, which was crazy.
Some of the stuff in boxing you can't make up. Hey, not many people know this. I happen to know because I follow you, and tell us about your goal for covering fights in all 50 states, and where are you at?
Well, that's I have to not take credit for that as an original idea. I'm sure you remember the late great correspondent Jack Obermeyer, KOJO.
Yes, sir.
From New Jersey. Well, years ago when I was just a fanboy, I was reading either, it could have been Flash, Boxing Update, which if you remember those pre-internet, or The Ring, or Boxing Illustrated. But in one of his pieces, which were always not only informative but hilarious to read, because he would also rate all the diners that he went to. He would say, like New Fight Town number 327 and New Diner number, 289 or whatever. But at the end of one of his pieces, he talked about his goal of covering boxing in all 50 states. And I thought, wow, that is really cool. That's awesome. And who knows, who knew that years later, one of the earliest shows I ever covered, I was sitting right next to Jack Obermeyer at the Turning Stone. It was Mark Too Sharp Johnson when he was flyweight champ. And he defended his title at the Turning Stone there. And so the first fight I ever covered, I think I was photographing, but then I would go back to my seat in between rounds. And this was film days before digital. Or at least I didn't have a digital camera then. And that was his idea. And sadly, he got to 49 before he passed away. And the one state he didn't get was Alaska.
I was just going to say, they don't even have a commission in Alaska. That's what I was going to ask you.
Well, here's the crazy thing, though. In what I would call his heyday in the 80s as a writer, and he was well into it by then, but in the 80s alone, you had Alexis Arguello, Pat Jefferson, you had Rocky Lockridge defending his junior lightweight title against Tai-Jin Moon. And Rocky Lockridge, he wasn't born and raised in New Jersey, but at that time he was promoted by the Duvas who were in Jersey, which is where Jack was from. And I would have thought he would have, finagled a credential or a flight on the plane or something through, knowing the Dubas or whatever. You had Jerry Cooney, I think, against Phil Brown, Hector Camacho against John Montez, and later on, George Foreman against Frank, remember Gator Lux, I think he was a journeyman heavyweight, on his comeback. All of those were in the 80s, and he didn't go to one of them, which boggles my mind. But somewhere along the line, and I don't know if I, thought about this when Jack passed or what, because I didn't ever, it took me a while to find out where he was at in his count. And it wasn't until after he passed that I found out he got to 49, just one shy of his goal. But right now I am at 39. So 11 more to go. And I've included in that District of Columbia. It's not a state, but it's kind of its own little entity, and it's part of the United States. I just recently did that a little while ago with a fight that was a wild upset. Jordan White was supposed to have defended his NABF junior lightweight title, and he came in overweight, and then he lost the fight on top of it. No, I'm sorry, my apologies. His opponent came in overweight, and let me back up. It was lightweight. He moved up, and it was going to be for the vacant lightweight title. He lost. Not only did he lose, the opponent who beat him, Tellez, didn't win the title because he won the fight, but he was overweight, so he wasn't eligible. But there's DC. I've already checked them off the list. Probably 4 times in the U.S. Virgin Islands when Samson Lukowicz had signed the brothers there, Julian Jackson's sons, Julius and John Jackson. He signed them after the Beijing Olympics and did their first 4 pro fights in the Virgin Islands. And through my connections with him, he brought me down every time because, he wanted to get those boys covered. So did that as well. But 11 to go. So a couple more fights and I'll be in the single-digit countdown.
There you go. It's funny. I met Jack too at the Turning Stone. I didn't even realize it was him, to be honest with you. It was kind of embarrassing.
Well, all you had to do was wait and listen, and you would have realized it was him because you remember him and his constant companion, J.R. Jowett, and they would be yelling, especially if they were fights in Jersey or in and around Philly, stop the fight, and they'd yell at the ref, and they were a couple of characters, and Jeff is still with us.
Well, the thing is when I met him, it was at the Turning Stone for the Hall of Fame, right? So then the next morning, you talk about the diners. I ended up, being one of the guys that was all eating at that diner in Canastota, and he was with us. So,
oh, that's great.
It was cool.
So you've won up to me because there would be several times I'd say, hey, and I'd tell him about a couple of really cool, unique diners in Syracuse, and I wanted to take him to breakfast or whatever, but he was, by the end of those weekends, or if it was just a fight night, he was always eager to race back home. So sadly, I never got the chance to take him out to Stella's or a couple other places.
Yeah, well, like I said, I felt like an idiot because I didn't even know him when I was sitting next to him that Friday night. Then it was the card show. And before the card show, I went out to breakfast with a couple other people, and he was with them.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, it was cool. So then I act like we were best buds, But
no, he kind of had a tight inner circle, but I tried my best to penetrate the circle, and we joked about a few things and that here and there, but didn't get the diner date with him.
So you've covered a lot of these sanctioning bodies conventions. What's that like, man?
Oh, man. You know what? First of all, it depends on which convention you're at. So they kind of...
They're that different? They're that different, Bob?
Well, in size sometimes, and it also depends where they are, how many people come. When a convention is happening in the States, obviously they get a lot more attendees. And only recently have the sanctioning bodies started opening the conventions to the public. So I just came back, technically Saturday morning. I got back after midnight Friday coming into Saturday from the WBO convention in Bogota, Colombia. And they opened that to the public for the first time. So I would say it didn't attract a lot of, let's say, boxing fan public people from America, because they just, they wouldn't come down. But there was a ton of like youth boxing club kids in attendance there, young people. And on the scope of the size and like pulling out all the stops, and I don't normally cover the WBO. We have another guy, Dave Finger from New Mexico, who kind of by default became the Fight News representative to cover the WBO conventions because of a work situation I had a few years ago where I couldn't get the time. So, when I was a normal working stiff and had a regular job. So Dave has been the WBO guy since. So I've only covered 2022, 3 years ago, and then just this year. But they got the Bogota Chamber of Commerce involved in like really helping financially and in other manners with this convention. So this was massive in terms of the space it took up in this convention center. They had a live boxing show on the 5th floor and meetings on the 3rd floor. And on the 1st floor was just this massive, they had a swag shop. They had a boxing ring. They had people with the VR headsets, the virtual reality with the gloves on. And they were, you could go in the ring and I guess I didn't do it, but, fight a virtual opponent or whatever. So there was a lot of things going on. But I would say, the WBC's is massive in both size and scope and the number of things they have going on, a lot of times simultaneously. So when you ask what it's like, if you're there as a fan, you're like probably a kid in a candy store, because they bring a lot of champs, both contemporary current champs and old ones, depending on what country it's in or whatever. But to cover an event, which is why I'm there, it's a handful. It's quite challenging to sometimes, like I said, there's meetings simultaneously in different rooms, and like one of the biggest touchstone meetings is the ratings and then the mandatory challengers meeting, where they look and see, well, when's the last time a mandatory defense was made in this weight class? Well, this champion is like way overdue. We're not going to allow step aside so that he can fight maybe a more well-known guy for a lucrative purse. So those are always nuts, where you have managers and promoters there stumping for their fighters, sometimes getting in arguments or very heated debates with the the board, whether it's the ratings board or the ratings chairman or the championship committee. So sometimes I'm trying to be at this meeting, and then maybe the referees seminar, the judges seminar, which all the sanctioning bodies conduct those seminars, and they are all ABC accredited, so Association of Boxing Commissions. So the judges and the refs that attend and the instructors, get their their CEUs, if you will, kind of their credits that show that they're up to date with their credentials, if you want to call it that. And so there's lots going on. So as a a correspondent, a photographer, or maybe trying to get interviews, it's hectic. There's a lot of late nights and then early mornings, editing and going through photos and double checking for typos and things like that. And now I'm not the writer that's submitting these things to my former editor. After I do all those checks and everything, then I've got to upload it. So, and all at the same time, there's news coming in that has nothing to do with that convention. Fight results, weigh-ins, press releases for press conferences, all sorts of stuff. So it can be hectic, but it is a lot of fun. And I know that there are lots of folks out there, fans, people involved in boxing, that would give, their right leg to be in those shoes and have a chance to kind of rub elbows with all those people in the sport. So it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun.
There's no doubt about that. I love as much as it can kill you. And I've lost, from a financial standpoint, I've lost tons and tons of money with the sport of boxing. But it's really true. Once that boxing bug gets you, there's no you can't leave. Whether it's rewarding financially or not, it's always rewarding mentally, because I'm like you. I love it. I try to do as much as I can with the sport, whatever opportunity opens up. But listen, it's a good segue here for my next question, because you mentioned these conventions and the different sanctioning bodies and how they're done. My question to you here is the UFC model, right? The
Yeah.
UFC model that's so successful. In a way, the sanctioning bodies are kind of like that, and promoters are kind of leaning towards that. Where for a while there, the promoter wouldn't let his fighter fight another promoter's fighter, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that a UFC model could work in the sport of boxing at this stage of the game? I mean, when you look at UFC, it started like that, and then the success just everybody wanted to emulate it. But boxing's been around for hundreds of years, really. Do you think a UFC model could work in boxing ever?
Well, you know what? I mean, obviously that's a hot topic right now, and that was a very hot topic at this recent WBO convention last week. And so there are, different aspects or multiple aspects to a model. So, there's a lot going on where, you've got promoters, you've got sanctioning bodies in boxing that are really bristling at, what is being suggested with Zuffa and TKO and by Dana White. I mean, Dana White has blatantly come out and, said he's going to put the sanctioning bodies out of business and make all those belts irrelevant, and it'll just be, I'm assuming, the ring belt, which he's involved with. With
it's that Bob. I don't mean to interrupt you, but he's actually talking about creating a Zuffa boxing belt.
Well, yeah, if it's not the ring belt, then it's their own belt,
right?
And it's, I mean, here's what I think right now, because I think a lot of this is really still preliminary. You know what? It's just like each sanctioning organization that along the way over the last, the WBA used to be the NBA, so they've been around, 100 years, but, you had the WBC start in 63, and then the IBF in 83, and then the WBO in 88. So in one sense, hey, those organizations were born, and much like, let's say, this Zuffa belt or whatever they want to call it, will be born. So on the one hand, if they want to do their own thing and have their own fighters fight for that belt, I think everybody else will say, fine, good for you, have at it. But to say in doing so, we're also going to take all you other sanctioning bodies, organizations out of commission, that's a whole nother ballgame. So, and to not let their fighters fight for those belts, and if they do, then they're out of Zuffa, and they're not going to be working with Dana White. Right now, and I don't know this, personally, I've watched interviews, for example, with Eddie Hearn, and he said that fighters, they want belts, and yeah, Zuffa, I guess, is going to have their own belt, but it's like they're going to be fighting for a belt that no one's ever heard of before. So, I mean, there's that aspect of the model. I know there's a lot of talk, and I in the beginning, as a fan, when UFC itself, now obviously it's broader, it's MMA, because you've got so many different entities within MMA. I used to watch those UFC pay-per-views that would come on, But nobody back then, there was no internet. We didn't know about these kind of clandestine pay structures and what those guys were getting paid, and a lot of the behind the scenes. I mean, the only reason anybody knows anything now about what's happening in boxing is because of the internet. But a lot of that is conjecture and, false nonsense that comes out on the internet. Everything from fights being signed that aren't truly signed to how much somebody got made, so on and so forth. How much they got paid. There are certain aspects of the structure that I don't think is going to work in boxing, because for all what everybody says about the sanctioning organizations and they're shady and cryptic and corrupt and all that, there's a lot of transparency, and people know what fighters make. They know what belt they're fighting for. And now, you remember, you've been around long enough. We remember the days where unification fights were a no-no. I mean, I remember Michael Nunn, IBF middleweight champ, signing to fight Sumbu Kalimbe, WBA champ. Kalimbe got stripped before he stepped in the ring because those organizations wanted their autonomy. And now it's all about unifications. It's higher purses, which means higher sanctioning fees and more attention on the sport and more clarity. You have less and less champions as they fight each other, and kind of working for a while to have one champ in each weight category. So will Zuffa go forward with their plans? Yeah, as far as trying to eradicate and get this UBO, this Universal Boxing Organization thing, passed into law, the Muhammad Ali Revival Act, or the American Boxing Revival Act, that remains to be seen. I can tell you it was a big subject, and one of the themes at the WBO convention, they had it on banners and posters, and on their backdrop behind them was hashtag belts matter. And, that was a not so veiled reference to, fighters want to fight for belts that they know, and we're not going anywhere. So,
I don't, my thought on it is it's too late. And the reason why I say that is, in order for that to work, he would have to, meaning Dana White, and if Turki Al-Rashid is involved or whatever, they would have to, let's face it, we all know what drives the sport of boxing, and that's money. So if all of a sudden they were throwing huge purses at fighters and stuff, I could see fighters running and jumping into bed with them, just like the promoters did with Turki Al-Rashid. However, that's not how the UFC model works. They try to share revenue with, from advertising dollars, et cetera, et cetera. So it would be a sell. You'd have to sell that idea and that concept to the pool of fighters, which is small anyway, right? I mean, compared to the way it was, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, the pool of fighters is limited. And that's one of the problems we have with the sanctioning bodies, because there's so many belts. And like you said, they say, oh, everybody wants to fight for a belt. Well, that's half the problem, because it's diluted. There's too many belts, right?
Right.
So in order for this to work, not only would they need the cooperation of the fighters, and like you also mentioned, revising the Muhammad Ali Act, it would only work for so long, because all it takes would be a Turki Al-Rashid type of a guy to say, hey, fighter A and fighter B, forget the Zuffa boxing belt. We're going to give you X amount of money to come fight for the boxing Bob Newman belt. And as quickly as they can sign the paper, they'll be doing it. And that's the truth. So I don't think that model, at least the way the UFC is set up now, could work. And I thought it was as successful and as smart as Dana White has proven to be. I think his approach, which was basically, there's a new sheriff in town, I'm taking over, did not go over well. And I know it pissed Eddie Hearn off.
Oh, it's not going to go over well when, you don't want a bully walking in and saying, I'm here, things, there's a new sheriff in town and things are going to change, when he's involved in combat sports, MMA, but it's not boxing. And like you said, boxing has been around for hundreds of years. It's been around since the ancient Olympics in one form or another. And it's, for better or for worse, they have a model that's going to work. And as at times unpolished and kind of wild west, anything goes as it is, it's working more or less, at least, for those involved and for those that are successful. Of course, there's, lots of people that never make it to the top, only a very small percentage make it to the top. But it's, I think when they passed the Muhammad Ali Act, all those years ago, that was things going in the right direction. And, one thing they touched on at the convention was some of the wording that it's called, and I may get this slightly wrong, I'm paraphrasing, but the Muhammad Ali Revival American Boxing Act or something like that. So, whatever law they pass here is only going to affect boxing in America. You can't enforce that around the world. And right now, listen, boxing is, it's huge in Japan. They have a load of champions, Inoue notwithstanding. It's
UK,
big in England.
UK is hot. I mean,
UK is hot. Russia's kind of a sticky wicket right now with the war going on and all that, and that was discussed at the convention as well, as far as sanctioning fights and fighters from Russia or fights happening in Russia. They can happen, but they're not going to have any sanctioning body. They're not going to get a blessing from any of the sanctioning bodies, as far as world titles from the four main organizations being contested in Russia.
It could be an easy fix, and I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, that's okay.
It could be an easy fix. You see, we've proven, and these promoters have learned throughout the years, that you can't be standalone in the sport of boxing. Don King and Bob Arum, they hated each other. But when the right fights had to be made, they sat down and they made those fights, and we were treated to all those fantastic fights,
Sure.
During the 80s and 90s. The promoters evolved into, nope, PBC kind of started it. We're just having our guys and blah, blah, blah. And, the truth of the matter is they realized, these promoters, that they have to work nice. So as we're improving and getting better, now all of a sudden you got Dana White coming in, and it seems like it's regressing the mindset of the sport. That's at least, my opinion. I just want to comment to somebody in the chat room.
Sure.
He's saying UK has been hot going on 10 years. Listen, I've been saying all along for at least 10 years that I feel the UK carries boxing on its back. And the main reason is two. One, the fighters fight each other. They're not afraid to lose their O. And number two, the fight fans seem to know more about the sport than they do here in the U.S. They're fanboys in the U.S., but they're boxing fans in the U.K. That's the way I look at it anyway, Bob. What's your quick thoughts on that?
No, I probably would I would have to agree to a certain extent. Obviously having gone to more fights here than in other countries, but I think I've got, in addition to the 39 states, I think I've got like 22 countries under my belt as well outside the U.S. I can speak that, in the U.S., where we get to sit, press row or ringside even, sometimes I hear some really, I don't want to be rude and say stupid, but just some really annoying comments that are coming out of fans' mouths where you can tell they don't even know what they're watching, who they're watching.
Bob, there's so many of them, and I use the line. I actually stole. I have to give credit. Bob Miller, and I know you knew Bob Miller.
Mm-hmm.
He always said it every time we were going to fights or whatever. And now I use his phrase, and he used to say it all the time. He's going, half of these fans don't know the difference between a left hook and a fish hook,
Yeah.
And it's
I love
true,
that.
though. It's true, though. I mean, you hear, and they've been programmed to think that if there's an O on the record, that means they're good. But
No.
Anyway.
No, you use the internet and go and see who they got their O against, all those wins, and you look and see more than half their opponents have an upside-down record, a sub-500 record.
Well, that's exactly what I try to point out when I break down fights. I mean, look at the records. I mean, look at the records of the records. But
yeah, the one of the worst comments I heard, and it was
hey Bob, there's people in the chat room saying, Bob, don't apologize. Stupid is 100% correct. So,
I'm trying not to be too rude. But.
No, you don't have to be on this show. I can't be. I'm cancel proof, bro. Come on.
All right.
Unbutton your collar, take your tie off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But there was a fight. The Brazilian fighter Robson Conceição. And, he had a couple of fights there with O'Shaquie Foster. Finally, on his fourth attempt, he finally won a junior lightweight title, and then he lost it right back. But before he was champ, he was fighting in Turning Stone. And I think that was on a card. Matter of fact, I'm certain. I know what card it was. It was Oscar Rivas, the Colombian who was fighting out of Canada, the heavyweight, was fighting Brian Jennings, defense of his NABF heavyweight title. And Shakur Stevenson was on that card fighting her for his first belt of any sort, and it was a Continental Americas title for WBC. I had the good fortune I wasn't covering that show for Fight News. I was actually supervising both of those fights for the NABF and for the WBC. And so I was sitting where the commission sits. And as is the case every now and again, I guess if you have friends and people, sometimes you can get for one fight, you get to sit, you get a credential around your neck. And so that was the case with these 2 or 3 guys that were sitting next to me. They kind of came in for this one fight, and it happened to be Robson Conceição's fight. And if you remember, he's stylist. He's not a young guy. He's well into his 30s, and he's not a puncher at all. Most of his fights go the distance. But he's a super chiseled guy. Like, he's probably got 2% body fat, but he can't punch. And this one guy sitting next to me is talking to his buddy, who I guess didn't know as much as this guy next to me thought he knew. And he's telling him, he's going, look at the muscles in his back. That's where all the punching power comes from. And I didn't hide it. I just hung my head. I didn't say anything, but I kind of shook my head a little bit, and it's like, oh man, no. Now, first of all, this guy, like I said, he's a stylist. He wins on points. He doesn't knock hardly anybody out unless maybe he cuts them. And that is not where the punching power comes from. I mean, I learned as a little kid, not just watching the fights, but paying attention to what the analysts say and whatever. And they talk about the legs and leverage and all that. And, you had a skinny guy like Mark Breland or Tommy Hearns, but they stopped guys because they knew the mechanics and how to throw the punch, and they weren't arm punchers. And but yeah, listening to some of the things that come out of this, we got here, I guess, talking about the knowledge of American fans versus, let's say, British fans or whatever.
Yeah, the UK fans are much more. Listen, I got a person in the in the chat room goes by Southpaw. He's got a question for you. He says, have you ever done any boxing? How did you get into the sport? He must see my list because I have that on one of my questions. What got you into boxing? So, Southpaw is asking you the question. So, I'm wondering which Southpaw this is because I know it's Southpaw who has that moniker as part of his name. So obviously, I was old enough to, see Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier's fights in the 70s. But what really got me hooked was the 76 Olympics. I was 12 at the time, so I'm divulging here. But, in some cases, like the flyweight Leo Randolph, he was actually still in high school. He was 18, the flyweight gold medalist.
And I just, that was a time, 12 years old. I had just finished elementary school, and that's the age where you're kind of reaching adolescence, and you get into fights. And I was a skinny kid, believe it or not, who was an easy mark to get picked on and things like that. And I just remember being in awe of these young men, in some cases teenagers, in that ring. And remember back then there was no headgear, wasn't like what they did with the amateurs in the Olympics later, but to me seemingly fearless, and wondering how they're hitting each other in the face. How are they not turning their back and saying, I don't want to fight, and I was just in awe of them, how they could harness their fear, which, I learned later with, you reading and listening to interviews with Customato and Mike Tyson about how fear is your friend and you need it, to be in boxing, and how to utilize it in your favor. But it really kind of, I got bit by the bug with those guys. And then about 9 years later, in '85, for some reason, I have no idea why, there was a fight coming on HBO that night, Larry Holmes against David Bay. And I ran out to one of our local electronics stores, and I bought a VCR for the express purpose of recording that fight that night, which I did. And for many, many, many years after that, I recorded every fight off the air that I could watch, that I knew was going to be on. And now, with the internet and YouTube and all this other stuff, it's kind of made that irrelevant. It got to a point where I was providing fight footage to HBO and ESPN and to managers who needed scouting footage on their opponent and they had never seen any. And I made a lot of friends around the world trading tapes and trying to get footage from other countries that I read about these guys like Jeff Fennick and Brian Mitchell and the Galaxy brothers in Thailand, but I had never seen them. And so that was kind of like the next phase of my involvement in the sport, of my fandom, so to speak. And then right around the same time as Fight News got created, 98, 99, my brother, who's a computer whiz, created a webpage for me. And I used that webpage, and the internet was, still kind of new in terms of web pages, especially focused on, a certain subject matter like boxing. But I was able to use that as a way to get my foot in the door and get press credentials to be ringside. And I remember I tried for Tito Trinidad against Pernell Whitaker at the Garden. And when I look back now, and you'll get a kick out of this, the public relations guy, and for a while I knew his name, I don't remember it anymore, that was quite a while ago. He said, what paper or what magazine do you write for? And I said, well, it's a web page, and it's called ringwrap.com. And he said, the internet, that's going to be a passing fad.
Hey, that internet thing's never going to make it,
know. And at the time I felt, I was kind of crushed, and of course I thought, oh, what a jerk, but who knew? Now, what's a newspaper? What's a magazine?
I always say, kidding around to people, I go, yeah, that AI, that's not going to stick around much longer, but
yeah.
Hey, it's funny. I did the same thing with recording tape, taping every fight on TV. And I'll tell you a quick story. I was a huge Boom Boom Mancini fan. And when he fought Livingstone Bramble, the first fight, it was the weekend. I went on my honeymoon and I went to Puerto Rico. So I set the VCR up because you could, set it to record automatically. And I went and I made sure I didn't know the result and all of this stuff. I come back, 10 days later and, fire up the old VCR and it's going. And if you recall, both the fights were good, but that first one was exceptional.
Right.
And it gets to the 10th round and I ran out of tape. I never. So it took me another month. Now I still didn't know the result. Okay. took me another month, and I finally found someone else who taped it. And I had to give him the tape. We had to get 2 VCRs, right? And still, I didn't want to know the result. And after all of that, I finally watched the last 2 rounds, and Boom Boom loses. And I was like, I suffered through all of this. I was expecting him to win, but anyway. So listen, you're now the editor-in-chief of Fight News. What does that mean to you? What is? I know you've been involved with the site a long time. I personally follow that site since it came out. My website was invented right around the same time as Fight News was. So it's been a website I've always went to. I love the concept of it. Now you're the editor-in-chief. What does that mean to you?
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is that I'm glad we still have the site, and that's kind of part of the story. Carl Freitag, who came up with the concept, and really, I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure it was one of the first, if not the first, boxing media site, boxing only on the internet, and it was a long haul. You may remember he had his business partner Flat Top, who was with him pretty much since the beginning, and he passed away. And it got to be tough going, for Carl in the last several years. And he and I were pretty close. I actually, in my regular job, worked nights, and I would chat and DM with him a lot because he would stay up for years to, get stuff from overseas and from Japan. And, when press releases first thing in the morning would be like the middle of the night here. A lot of times he would be chatting. And anyway, he let me know that he felt like it was coming to an end, and he wasn't really sure how he was going to keep it going, but he kept it going for as long as he felt he could. And I kid you not, this past summer in July, he texted me a couple hours after I got home from work, and I was just getting ready to go to bed, and I had just made up my mind that I was going to retire from my job. That morning, I decided when I go back to work tonight, and then before I leave tomorrow morning, I'm going to put in my notice that I'm retiring. And I get a text from Carl that he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to keep the site going anymore, and he thought that weekend was going to be the last weekend for Fight News. And I panicked, kind of selfishly, because that's been not my bread and butter financially, but that's been my door to boxing, to being on the inside, so to speak, covering the fights, going to the conventions, and so on and so forth. And I thought, oh no, I can't let this happen. And I made a call, and the next thing we'll just kind of fast forward for now on that. A transaction was made, and Fight News stayed alive. So first of all, for me, that's like the main thing that I'm excited about, is that, we're still here, and the crew, there's a lot of diehard originals that are still writing, and a couple that are still photographing for us from way back. And I let them know, because nobody really knew that this was possibly going to be happening, that Fight News might disappear. And they, first of all, they were stunned. They were like, holy cow, thanks for letting us know. And then, oh my God, thanks that, we're going to keep it going. So in that sense, it means a lot to me to, still have these opportunities that being involved with Fight News brings. As far as assuming the editor-in-chief role, it's not really, I didn't think about it really too much. It's just kind of like I was on the journey, I mean, I know you've heard the saying, life's not a destination, it's a journey. And that's really how I've kind of looked at things, because when you get disappointed when you look forward to the destination, because you get there and then you go, okay, now what? I'm here, but yet life is still going on. So I've always adopted like the, life's a journey, not a destination philosophy. And so for me, I'm glad that, the ride is still going. Having that position, it's an honor. I'm thankful every day that, for Carl Freitag and for Flat Top, for kind of being those two pioneers and having that vision. And I'm thankful that I forged a good relationship with Carl, and that, we had his blessing to carry on. And so, it's kind of generic to say it means a lot, but I just kind of take it in stride. I don't think about it too much in terms of like having the title and all that. I'll tell you what, having gone to so many conventions, I don't know how many I've covered. At one point I had a count going, but I'm sure combined with all the organizations over the years, starting from 1998, when I went to the WBA convention in Bangkok just to meet the Galaxy brothers, and I did. I'm sure I'm well over like 50 combined conventions, and but there would be so many people, refs, judges, like you said, oh, that was the first page I go to on the morning, and so on and so forth, and they thought I was Fight News, and Fight News was me, and I said, no, I'm just a lowly cub reporter, and I said, no, there's somebody else owns it, and so on and so forth. But Carl was always kind of a guy, in the shadows, behind the scenes, like the Wizard of Oz, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. And so now it's kind of interesting to let people know, hey, remember how you always used to ask me? Well, now I am the editor-in-chief of Fight News. So, and it's only been one convention so far. There's still a few more to go. But everybody knows I've kind of put the word out just to let them know that, the presidents of the other organizations. And so, yeah, it's an honor. It means that to me. And I will try to, my best, and the team is going to try their best to not just keep it going, but, bring it back to its glory that it once had. And I am more than confident that we will. And I've gotten good responses so far from a lot of people.
I tell you what, I was very happy to hear that you took over that role, and I'm looking forward to all of the future changes and updates and stuff you guys are going to be doing. And I have no doubt in my mind that you will maintain being the best boxing news website out there, because in my opinion you never were not the best. So it's only going to get better and better, and once you guys get some stuff cooking, you got to keep us posted, because we'd love to have you come back on again.
Oh, definitely.
And, as a matter of fact, you should come on more often. We live in the same state. You're not even that far from me, really. What are you? You're in Syracuse area, right?
I am in Syracuse, right in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm not even in a suburb.
So I'm like 2.5 hours from you. I'm in Lake George. See, the problem with me is I'm east of you, so there's no shortcut. I gotta go west, and then I have to go south and then west to you.
Well, it's not a problem. It's just the only way there is, I know.
No,
go south and west, or west and south.
there's everyone says, oh, there's a shortcut. Yeah, but you get caught behind a hay truck, and now that 2.5 hour drive is a 5 hour drive.
Oh yeah. I've I'm sure also that we've been. Did you ever cover Adam Neary's shows, the Aries promotions there?
Yes.
When he was doing those at the Egg and at the, Franklin Armory, and there was those, and also Lisa Elovich.
Elovich did a lot of. She did them at the Albany Armory, which was not the hottest place to go.
No, it was rustic, but it was kind of cool. It was a gritty place. But remember, she would do those in Saratoga during the horse racing weekend too. And
yes, she always had one there.
Yeah, and she had an unbelievable knack for marketing, and she would tie that show every year in with the horse racing weekend and pack the place.
And now she's selling vodka. She's got a vodka. But I'll tell you, I even went to what's the name of that? Hamburg?
Oh, yeah.
I went to a couple of shows up there, and as a matter of fact, I met Charlie Fitch when he was just starting out as a referee, and we both know that he's turned out to be one of the best referees.
Oh, man. I'm so happy for Charlie. The opportunities that I don't even want to say gotten, that he has earned.
He's earned them. No, he's a great referee. I tell you, when people ask me about referees, I'm not even going to mention names, but there's several that I think are so overrated. It's always been, in my opinion, fighter A versus fighter B. There's a lot of referees out there that think it's fighter A versus fighter B featuring referee so-and-so. No. And Charlie, the two best referees that I think right now, Charlie Fitch and Harvey Dock. Those two, in my opinion, are the best, because half the time you don't remember who the referee was, and that's an indication, at least in my opinion, of a good refereeing job. That means I got to watch the fight,
Yeah, well, and they both fit the role, as you said, of
I've been corrected. It's not vodka she's selling. It's
it's tequila, right?
Yeah. I have vodka under mine, but no, Dax just corrected me. It's
the teetotaler knew it was tequila.
yeah. But anyway, Boxing Bob Newman, I appreciate you stopping by and spending some time with us.
Appreciate you having me.
Appreciate it, and keep me posted on the progress with the site. I know we've talked about some things together, and hopefully we can make stuff happen. But either way, I want you back on the show as soon as you can.
All right, man. Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure. And fans, keep listening, keep watching.
Well, I'll be seeing you ringside hopefully soon. You
will. There's a February rumor for Turning Stone, so keep that under you.
The last time you gave me a rumor, then remember, I'm like, what happened? And then everything got canceled.
Unfortunately, it was going to be a decent show with a big promoter. I won't say who. And my inside guy with that company, he couldn't even tell me why. The whole thing just fell apart. So
wasn't it a rematch with Ford or something? Wasn't Ford going to be on that card?
Well, I don't know, because then he moved up in weight, and that didn't happen. But this is inside scoop from the commission. So at least they're prepared. So I mean, if the promoter pulls a switcheroo, then I guess there's nothing anybody can do about it, which is what happened. In that last show that got canceled a year ago. But hey, if nothing else, we know we're going to see each other in June at the Hall of Fame.
There you go. All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon. Keep in touch.
Thanks, man.
All right, take it easy. That's Boxing Bob Newman, the new editor-in-chief of Fight News, and what a great guy. I'm sure you've seen him ringside. Going to fights. He's always the big guy with the best seat in the house with the dungaree jacket on. That's Boxing Bob. And like I said in the beginning of the show, he introed me for my New York State Hall of Fame induction, which was really cool. He even lied to everybody. He told them I always have a smile on my face. And come on, man. I don't always have a smile. But anyway, I wanted to give you guys my Billy C. middleweight rankings. I told you that we are doing our own rankings. I'm sick of all of the I tell you what really got me sick is, you see the sanctioning bodies. You got, so-and-so's the champ. Number one ranked contender is so-and-so. Then number two is not rated. Then you got a guy at number 3 and number 4. Well, wait a minute. If there's nobody for number 2, doesn't number 3 move to number 2 and 4 to number 3, et cetera, et cetera? So I decided to do my own, and I'm only doing 9 weight classes. I'm doing the original 8, plus I added the cruiserweight division because the heavyweights got so much bigger. So if you're interested, once I'm done, we're up to the middleweights. I'm going to do the middleweights right now. Once we're done, if you want to get on the list to get my monthly ratings, just drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing, TalkinBoxing.com. All right. Here's my top 12. Now, we don't have a champion either. We just give you who I think are the top 12 middleweights in the world today. And remember, this is the middleweights and super middleweights, which is going to get a little dicey as we go on. So my number one middleweight is, of course, Terrence Crawford. He's number one. Number two is Canelo Alvarez. Number three, and I'm going to murder people's names here, but Yanibek Ali Kaluli, who's by the way, Terrence Crawford, USA, and I'm going to tell you where they're from, where they're residing now. Canelo Alvarez, Mexico. Ali Makuli is USA. Number four is Christian Mabili out of Canada. Number five is Khalid Plant, who's United States. Number six is Chris Eubank Jr. out of the UK. I got number seven is Carlos Adames, United States fighter. Diego Pacheco at number 8 for out of the U.S. Some people might disagree with me with my number 9 ranked middleweight, but I think he deserves it. And my number 9 is William Skull, is number 9. Number 10, even though he hasn't been too active, he is in a title unification, scheduled for a title unification soon. I got Urslandi Lara at number 10. I got Jaime Munguia out of Mexico at number 11. And my number 12, and this cat is ranked a little higher in some of the other, organizations, sanctioning bodies, etc. But I think he's a little overrated. But I do have him at number 12, Hamaz Shiraz. Those are my top 12 middleweights. Dax is saying, Yanibek is 160, Adames is 160, then the rest is interchangeable. The thing is it's going to get a little dicey as I do these rankings because some of these super middleweights could actually be ranked as light heavyweights. So I'm trying to keep it within the 8 original sanctioning bodies. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining us today, especially Boxing Bob Newman from Fight News and all of the interaction we had in the chat room. I appreciate it. A little surprise for you guys starting next week. Coach from the Coach's Corner podcast with Dave McDonough. Dave is going to be joining me for a little bit on the show and helping me out. And hopefully I got Dax in the chat room now. Dax, we got to get you back on. We're going to keep this train moving. We got some good guests scheduled. I'm booked through the year. Just some names. We got a couple of young fighters coming up. I got Henry Jones, Discombobulating Jones, scheduled to come on. He's an announcer. I got Nate Campbell, former world champion, the Galaxy Warrior. He's going to be joining us. And the list goes on and on. We got a bunch of people already booked, and we'll keep them coming. I know Coach Dave is going to get some young fighters on the show, and we'll keep this ball moving. So, hey, just remember, make sure you tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.